Look, dude, people like you, all you do is make excuses for the orange turd, and I've had it.
Buckle up, because it's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
You're different. I like you.
Now, here's Brian.
What's happening, everybody? Happy Wednesday, Pushing the Limits. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, yeah, we're going to have some fun today. We got some great guests lined up for you today, and a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. Starting with, coming up here in just a few minutes, Ron Filipkowski from Midas Touch is going to be joining us. Certainly looking forward to talking to him. One of the greatest follows on X, let me tell you. And then coming up in hour number 2, his name is Dan Clement. He went to a high school called Mankato West High School. That's where Kamala Harris's vice presidential nominee happened to teach, I believe, social studies and coached football. Well, this kid played, he's not a kid anymore. He played football for Coach Walz and might have even saved his life. He's going to tell that story coming up in hour number 2. Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. You could be listening on the AM/FM dial, the Occupy Democrats Network, Washington Press Network, on X, on YouTube, and, of course, our website, which is pushingthelimits.live. I want to start with a little criticism of CNN. As I've said for years now, I think Jake Tapper is one of their best. I think he's a great journalist. I know he's a great journalist. So Jake Tapper happens to be Jewish. And we've heard a lot of people with rumblings that Kamala Harris didn't pick Shapiro because Shapiro is Jewish, the anti-Semitism on the far left wing of the party. I don't know if that's true or not. But I will say this. Abby Phillips and Audie Cornish yesterday on CNN completely embarrassed themselves. I want you to listen to this exchange where you can hear Jake Tapper, where it appears like he's disagreeing and he's getting frustrated, but yet at the same time, he's trying to be professional. They're trying to make the case that Shapiro angered the far left of the party, and that's why they didn't pick him. Just have a listen to this exchange, and then we'll discuss it.
And I think ultimately, Shapiro, I think fit is important. But, I also think that when you look at the principle of do no harm, maybe they did say, in a state like Minnesota, do we want to, those 100,000 uncommitted voters who came out about the Gaza war, do we want to antagonize those voters? Those are all part of the questions as well.
So, but I just say,
Tim Walz also spoke conciliatorily towards those people. He said, look, that uncommitted vote is significant and those people should be heard. So having that kind of response, I think, is probably more of an open door to the parts of the party that have been very frustrated with the Democrats.
So, but just to one point on the Gaza war, Shapiro has the same position on Israel that Governor Walz, that Senator Kelly has. He's actually been more critical of Netanyahu than the other two, but he is Jewish.
He's also the face of the crackdown on the protests, right? He spoke very vehemently about those campus protests as being anti-Semitic.
Not all of them. The ones that were anti-Semitic, he criticized as being anti-Semitic.
But he was out front on the issue. So I'm wondering if that's the kind of thing that, again, for the activist wing of the party,
sure, absolutely,
they thought was a slap in the face.
No, it's not the activist wing of the party. It's the anti-Semitic wing of the party. Audie Cornish is a moron, okay? He wasn't the face of the crackdown of campus protest. He wasn't the face of anything. He called out parts of those protests, as Jake Tapper correctly pointed out, that were anti-Semitic. There were parts of the protests that were not anti-Semitic, as I've mentioned on this show before. There are parts of those protests where there were good people there. Good people who just didn't want innocent people to die, whether it be Israel or in Gaza. Shapiro called out what many on the right and the left called out, which are anti-Semitic protesters, the ones that were chanting out death to Israel, death to Jews. So Cornish is a moron. And I know that Jake Tapper's trying to be professional. He did the best job he could to challenge Cornish. She's an idiot. And Abby Phillip also has no idea what she is talking about. Shapiro wasn't the face of the crackdown on campus protests. He simply called out the anti-Semitism in some of those protests. And Jake Tapper correctly pointed that out. What are these CNN hosts talking about? If there are people, and that is true, in the left wing of the party that didn't want Shapiro to be the vice president because he's calling out anti-Semitism, then they are not activists, or as she pointed out, the activist wing of the party. They are anti-Semitic. What a wild moment on CNN. And it goes to show you that there are some in the Democrat Party that have a problem with people that I believe of the Jewish faith. I'm not saying that Kamala Harris picked Walz over Shapiro because of that. I'm not saying that at all. I know some people on the far right will make that claim. Her husband is Jewish. I don't believe that for 1 second. But yes, I do believe there are people on CNN like Audie Cornish and Abby Phillips that are misinformed, that believe that somehow Shapiro, because he called out anti-Semitism, that's a bad thing. And let me also, for the record, say that Walz and Shapiro have extremely similar, basically identical policy opinions when it comes to the war and when it comes to Hamas and Israel and the Palestinian conflict. Virtually identical. So you can't make that argument that somehow, some way, Shapiro is so very different than Walz when it comes to policy in Israel. That is not correct. Listen, when it comes down to it, we'll probably never know the real reason why Harris chose Walz over Shapiro. I could give you my opinions. I can share with you my thoughts. I think maybe a part of it is that Shapiro maybe didn't want the job. And listen, I could be wrong on that. I don't know. Walz seems like a pretty solid guy. I've learned a lot more about him over the course of the last 24 hours or so. And we're going to get somebody that went to high school where he was teaching, a student and a football athlete, a player that played for Coach Walz. His name is Dan Clement, and he's going to be joining us in hour number 2. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back from Midas Touch, Ron Filipkowski will be joining us, get his thoughts on all of this and more, his thoughts on the Harris's VP pick, the rally that took place this morning, that and much, much more. He'll be joining us next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this with Ron Filipkowski. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hello, I'm Ron Quince, and I'm running for Congress as a nonpartisan candidate in District 1. I'm dedicated to serving our entire community. In this challenging time, it's more important than ever to have leaders who focus on unity and progress. I believe in putting people over politics and finding practical solutions that benefit us all. Never stop believing in America, no matter our troubles and turmoil. We can and we will do better. We must be brave. Stop voting for those politicians who care about their career and gaining power but don't improve our lives. I believe in America and I believe in you. You need a candidate who believes in policy over party because you deserve better. In Nevada, every voice matters. I humbly ask for your vote this coming election, November 5th. To learn how we can create a better America, please visit quincefornevada.com. Paid for by Ron Quince for Congress.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
Tired of the same old date night? Craving a deeper connection with your partner? O-Box is your escape into a world of romance and passion. Each month, discover a box filled with personalized surprises, exciting activities, and a love story written just for the two of you. Ignite desire, share laughter, and make memories that last a lifetime. Your O-Box journey culminates into a beautiful love novel. Ready to write the first thrilling chapter? Let the O-Box adventure begin. Visit our website, obox.com. That's OBOXXX.com and get started.
Workers have been hit hard over the past few years. From the pandemic to inflation, it has often felt like we can't get ahead. Too many of us are struggling to afford rent, food, and other basic necessities. We need leaders who know that our country depends on us, the workers. If we succeed, everyone else succeeds. Our choice is clear this November. We must elect leaders who support our crucial role in this country, and that is not Donald Trump. Paid for by Battleborn Progress.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and food. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up at the top of the hour, guy who played football for Walz, Coach Walz, I should say. He went to school at Mankato West High School, and Walz was also his teacher. He's going to be joining us. His name is Dan Clement. Coming up at the top of the hour, but so many great people follow on social media, right? I talk about those people all the time. Joe Walsh is a personal friend of mine. He's a great follow. But the guy joining us right now, I don't know if there's anybody better than him. What a great follow. He does such a great job at Midas Touch, and that's why he has such a large following. Ron Filipkowski joining us right now on the show. Ron, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Hey, good. Doing well. Busy days these days. Campaign's heating up, right?
Very, very busy. That is for sure. And of course, Harris and her VP pick, they're coming to Las Vegas on Saturday. They're holding these rallies every day. What do you make of the enthusiasm and the response from this pick from Harris?
It's amazing. I mean, no knock on Joe, but remember in 2020 he couldn't have rallies because of COVID, so he was doing all those socially distanced events. So we never really saw like what Joe can do. And then 4 years later, at his advanced age, I mean, look, he just wasn't going to be able to do what is happening right now. But so I think there was all this, part of it is there's all this pent up, energy and enthusiasm where Democrats have just been so frustrated and disappointed. And then the debate happened. And I think that is all just erupted. And so it's almost like extra enthusiasm now as a result of what happened before. And also to a great extent because of Kamala Harris, who's really coming into her own. I commented yesterday, I think every single speech I've seen her so far, she gets better and better and better every one.
I agree. And that's a really important to note that. I think she certainly has improved on that. Let's talk a little bit about her pick, Walz, for a moment. I was a little surprised. I saw your reaction. You were a little surprised as well, but I think we both would agree. Walz is a really solid guy, right? I mean, football coach, teacher, served. The attacks on the far right, as you monitor that, as do I, they're saying, oh my God, even though he served 24 years, he retired because he didn't want to go to war in Iraq. He didn't want to go to war. Which is, to me, just embarrassing. They're calling him a socialist. Oh, my God, he wanted to put tampons in boys' bathrooms in high schools. These are the attacks we're hearing from the right, Ron. What do you make of that?
Yeah, the military service thing is particularly disgusting. I mean, I went through a similar situation myself when I was in the Marines. That he did, him even more, was more difficult than mine. But what first of all, Trump's campaign manager is Chris LaCivita. Chris LaCivita is the person who did the Swift boat ads against Al Gore back in 1992. So he's trying to run this playbook back. He's trying to do the same thing that they did to Al Gore or what? I'm sorry, John Kerry.
John Kerry. Yeah.
It's John Kerry.
Right.
Sorry, I mix those two up all
That's
the time.
okay.
Swift boat ads on John Kerry.
Yep.
And he was trying to do the same thing, but it just doesn't apply here. I mean, what we have is this, Walz was in the National Guard, the Army National Guard. He had been deployed to Europe multiple times, activated multiple times, did his 24 years, was about to come up to 25, put in his retirement papers
right
before his unit was even notified that they were going to be sent to Iraq. So, this guy has a family, he has kids, he has a full-time job, and he's about ready to go on with his life after 25 years. And then right before that happens, his unit gets notice that they're going to be deployed. Right. So he has to wrestle with that decision. Same exact thing happened to me first Gulf War, where I had done my time, gotten out, got the GI Bill. I was so happy. I was at University of California. I was so happy to finally be in school. And then Saddam invades Kuwait. And I had to wrestle with that, like the guilt that all of us go through. Like, man, my guys are going to be going over there. Like, I want to go. And, but I've moved on with my life. I'm in school now. I did my time. And you wrestle back and forth with it. And he just had to make that difficult decision that, look, if this had happened, obviously in the last 25 years, I'm in. But, it didn't. And I did my time. And so to disparage this man for that, especially given the fact that J.D. Vance was deployed to Baghdad as a public informations guy. He sat in an air-conditioned office for 6 months writing press releases, and Trump dodged the draft. So these are the last people we want to hear this garbage from.
Couldn't agree with you more. Going on what Walz said yesterday, he made a 5-second joke about the whole couch thing. And it was in jest. It was a funny joke. And it's amazing, isn't it, Ron, how the far right, oh my God, how disgusting. How can you make a joke like that? It's a hoax. Yet you look at all the far right conspiracy theories. I mean, a laundry list, right, of all the lies of Donald Trump and those on the far right. But yet he makes a joke in jest for like 3 or 4 seconds and the right loses their what. What do you make of that?
Well, because I think that they know that Democrats are a little squeamish about doing this stuff. I mean, that's always been the case, is that Republicans won't hesitate to do stuff like this. Trump, every other line is some kind of personal insult, attack, conspiracy theory. They don't care about any of that. But they know that Democrats aren't comfortable with that. And that was actually like when I switched parties 4 years ago and started working, helping out the Biden campaign and Lincoln Project and those guys. You know, I think that was one of our criticisms. A lot of ex-Republicans coming over is like, man, you know, the only way to defeat these people is to take the gloves off and stop being so nice and stop trying to take the high road, you know, because sometimes you just got to mix it up and you got to take the gloves off and you got to get a little nasty.
Yes,
and what I said at the time in 2020 was, if you guys don't want to do it, that's fine. We'll do it for you. Just don't criticize us while we're doing it.
Of course.
You know, and that's also why they hate ex-Republicans so much, is because we know their tactics and we throw it back on them. So, you know, the couch thing is just a fun little hoaxy kind of thing. You know, I joke that it's like, no, it's not true. It's kind of an internet urban myth, but it does sound like something Vance would do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I put up a picture on social media. It's a picture of JD Vance and his wife. You might have seen this picture circulating where, you know, they're both standing next to each other and they're wearing an outfit of Indian descent, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I said, this is the day that JD Vance turned Indian. Do I really think he turned Indian? No. It's a joke on the play of words of Donald Trump going after Kamala Harris or her lack of blackness, right? And I don't see anything wrong with that because we don't actually believe what we're saying. We're mocking the right for actually believing the stuff that Trump says about the whole blackness stuff. I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, in the last week, he's made fun of Kemp, who has very high approval ratings, the Republican governor of that state. He's mocked Kamala Harris, that whole thing in Chicago. I didn't even talk to you about that, but that was an embarrassment, in my personal opinion, that somehow she turned black. And yet when you ask any MAGA Republican about this, Ron, they'll deflect and they'll talk about policy. But no, I didn't ask you about policy. Why is the Republican Party, and particularly Donald Trump, attacking Kamala Harris for her lack of blackness? Why do they keep doubling down on this?
This is a situation where, like, Trump's campaign people are they don't want this. You know, it's they just can't control him. And you know, this is not where they want to go. They don't want to go with, she slept her way to the top, she's not black, she laughs too much. Like, that's not really their plan. But Trump listens way too much to the internet influencers, the social media types, Donald Trump Jr. I mean, hell, the interview that he just did with like the right-wing podcast, white nationalist Groyper dude.
Yeah.
That was Barron Trump's idea. Barron Trump watches that guy's show. So he's going to these weirdos because his kids are telling him, oh, this guy's cool, instead of listening to like the people he's paying millions of dollars to advise him on the campaign. He's listening to knuckleheads.
Yeah, and he's doing an interview with Elon Musk too. What do you make of that? I don't think that helps the Trump campaign at all.
Look, I mean, DeSantis kicked off his campaign with a much hyped Elon Musk interview, right? This was going to be the thing that was going to propel him to the top. And DeSantis's poll numbers went down after that interview.
Right.
Musk is a horrible person to share a stage with. Horrible. He's boring. He mumbles. He rambles. He's a terrible public speaker.
Yep.
He soaks up the oxygen in the room. And, you know, Trump is just one of these guys who just rant and raves and rambles too, and goes off on tangents. So the two of them together, I just can't imagine that this chemistry is going to be good, or either one of them are going to come off looking good. Look, the bottom line is anybody who listens to Elon Musk is not voting for Harris anyway.
Agree. 100%. If you're just joining us from Midas Touch, the great Ron Filipkowski, great follow on social media, particularly X. Before I get to some of your weird Republican posts, which are phenomenal, by the way, let me just ask you one other question. The Walz pick, obviously it was between Walz and Shapiro. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, Ron. I know you're not. But do you think that there's a possibility that maybe Shapiro wasn't all in? Maybe that was the reason. You hear other, rumblings coming out where maybe they didn't want Shapiro because he was so pro-Israel, which is, by the way, not true. He has the same policy positions as Walz does. Why ultimately, Ron, I guess my question is, do you think Harris picked Walz over Shapiro?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of factors here. You know, I think that they recognize that Pennsylvania is a critical state, and most of the criticism I hear about the Walz over Shapiro was, man, we really got to win Pennsylvania. But the reality is, look, if Shapiro was the pick, where would he be today? He would be in Wisconsin. He would not be in Pennsylvania. So I think that they looked at it like, instead of having Shapiro travel the country for the next 3 months, let's have him campaign for us full time in PA as a surrogate.
Yeah.
And take the guy from the state we know we're going to win and let him do the national tours, which is Walz. She has a huge lead in Minnesota. That's not even a question. So it's not like we need Walz to stay in Minnesota. Right. So I think that was a factor. I think there were base issues. I think there's nobody in the base right now that's objecting to Walz. And there would have been plenty of people in the base who would have objected to Shapiro. He's also much more moderate politically. Setting aside all the Jewish Israel stuff, he's more moderate on a lot of things. So, I think on bad, and a lot of people thought, well, Shapiro is such a dynamic public speaker. Well, now they're seeing that Walz is too. Yeah. And the other benefit, I think, is the fact that 71% of America said that they had never heard of Walz. That is a good thing because whatever he brings to the table is currently not being reflected in the polls because people don't know who he is, but they're seeing who he is now. They're learning who he is, and what they're seeing, they really like. So that's going to give her a little bit of a bump that Trump did not get a bump with Vance.
No, I think you could make the argument for the opposite. I think he might have buyer's remorse, but we'll have to wait and see what happens here. Last question, Ron. You are one of the best at this, at a lot of things, but particularly Republicans are weird. Your posts on social media are hilarious. You find these clips and you do such a great job in pointing it out. This has kind of taken a life of its own, hasn't it? It started with a Kamala Harris comment on they're just weird, and guys like you, prominent people on social media, pointing that out. And you've had a lot of fun with this, and I enjoy it. What do you make of this phenomenon of Republicans are weird?
This has been just the premise of my social media account for 4 years. I mean, when I first got on Twitter in early 2020 during the campaign, it was the whole purpose of it was I saw for my own eyes how weird and strange these people were because they just took over my party that I spent 30 years in. And I realized that these are all grifters, weirdos, wackos, nuts. And my whole premise was if I could show average people, particularly like average Republicans, normal Republicans, exactly who these weirdos are who just took over our party and exactly how crazy they are and what their views are, I could convince a lot of normal, average, educated people to maybe vote for Biden. And that was the whole. So I spent the last 4 years watching all their shows, all their podcasts, just documenting their craziness. So when the Harris campaign takes over and they decide, okay, we're going to make this like a central feature of our campaign, I was just like, wow. It's almost like, somebody, you're like collect model trains and the campaign just said, we're going to make model trains a feature. I mean, it's just like, you just threw me a fastball down the middle. So I says, look, I've got this massive war chest, this treasure chest of clips, thousands and thousands of clips of all these people being weird. And I'm just going to bombard for the next 100 days, the internet with these clips. And yeah, people really seem to like them.
It is hilarious, Ron. Well, I think you're one of the reasons why Joe Biden won in 2020. And I personally believe you're going to be one of the reasons why Harris will be winning in 2024. Ron Filipkowski, you guys do a great job at Midas Touch. Always appreciate it. I know you have your show coming up here in a few minutes, and I can't wait to watch that. Ron, always appreciate it when you take the time to do this show, my friend. Thank you so much.
Okay, buddy. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. That's Ron Filipkowski from Midas Touch. He has a great podcast, by the way. I watch it all the time. His social media and his posts on X are so entertaining, so funny, but even more importantly, factually accurate. Really smart guy. Love what he does, and always appreciate it when Ron takes the time to come on. One of my favorite guests, without question. Quick programming note for you before we take some phone calls, because I will be taking some phone calls here in a few minutes. Coming up here at the top of the hour, you're not going to want to miss this. His name is Dan Clement. He went to high school at Mankato West High School. Guess who one of his teachers was? Well, that's right. You guessed it, Mr. Walz. He also played football for Coach Walz, and he claims that Walz could have possibly even saved his life with some substance abuse issues he had when he was younger. He's going to be joining us at the top of the hour, so I'm certainly looking forward to that. Before we take phone calls at 702-221-7283, and again, phone lines are open now if you want to call in. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. I do want to play a few quick clips for you before we get to our phone calls. So this was Walz making that couch joke, and I wanted to play it for you, and then we'll comment after it. I think it was a very funny moment. Have a listen to this. And again, this is Walz yesterday after being put on the stage, and he made a, some would consider it to be off color. I don't see anything wrong with it. I thought it was funny. Here it is.
Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, JD studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on. That's not what middle America is. And I got to tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy.
Listen to that crowd.
That is if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. See what I did there?
Yeah, Walz, I see what you did there. I thought that was kind of funny. Listen, some people on the far right are up in arms. How could he make that off-color joke? When you think of the conspiracy theories from the right, whether it be the 2020 election and cheating in the elections, they claim, or 2,000 mules, or Jewish space lasers, or Hunter Biden allegedly having sex with young Asian boys. It's all on his laptop. The conspiracy theories are endless. Pizzagate. I could go on and on. Republicans better sit this one out. Because first of all, it was a joke. I guarantee if you talk to Walz, no, he doesn't think that J.D. Vance is sexually assaulting couches. It was a joke to mock him. But these people on the far right continue with their conspiracy theories, and they believe it. Here's another lie. And, it's interesting because you hear this from Republicans nonstop, right? They try to make the case that under Joe Biden, crime is way up. That's a lie. Crime is down. And I'm so glad that Walz brought this up. And listen to the end of this statement because it's also a very, very funny end of it. Have a listen to this.
Now, Donald Trump sees the world a little differently than us. First of all, he doesn't know the first thing about service. He doesn't have time for it because he's too busy serving himself. Again and again and again, Trump weakens our economy to strengthen his own hand. He mocks our laws. He sows chaos and division. And that's to say nothing of his record as president. He froze in the face of the COVID crisis. He drove our economy into the ground. And make no mistake, violent crime was up under Donald Trump. That's not even counting the crimes he committed.
That's the best. So funny. And so true, by the way. Violent crime was up under Donald Trump. It's down under Joe Biden, but you'll never hear these right-wing clowns talk about that. And these idiots on the far right that are calling him a socialist. He's the 7th most conservative Democrat in the House. He's a gun owner, ranking the 6th best state in America for big business. That's a socialist? He's for paid sick leave, adding $2.3 billion in the public school system. That's a socialist? Helped create this huge infrastructure bill. That's a socialist? And he doesn't get enough credit for this, by the way. Signed a free school breakfast and lunch bill. Put that into place. And it's so interesting because some of these governors on the right, like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who in my opinion is an absolutely disgusting human being, her and her father are human trash as far as I'm concerned. But you won't hear this from the far right. Sarah Huckabee Sanders signed a bill into law in her state allowing kids under the age of 16 to work. Do we live in communist China? Sarah Huckabee Sanders put that bill in, while people like this guy, Walz, who in my opinion is a hero, signed a bill allowing kids to have free breakfast and lunch. You want to call this guy a socialist, you right-wing buffoons, you? You're all an embarrassment. All right, I promised we would get to some phone calls. Brian, tell me how you really think. Well, I do that. 702-221-7283. Why don't we go straight to the phone calls? Let's go to Ray. Ray is first up on Pushing the Limits. Ray, what's going on, man? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, Ray in Iowa.
Thanks for calling in, Ray.
Yeah, Walz, his congressional district butted right up against the state border and kind of adopted him here as our governor, us on the left, since we don't have, we have very conservative representation here in Iowa right now. Mm-hmm. But anyway, talk about his military service. To achieve the rank of command sergeant major is something awesome.
Yes.
And you have the trust of many people, be fully vetted, have no skeletons in your closet, and be well-liked, well-received. You're the dad. You're the dad of all the soldiers.
Correct.
Under your command.
Amen. I agree.
You're on the lookout for all of them.
Yep. So let me ask you a question, Ray. By the way, I agree with everything you just said. I think any reasonable person would agree with you. Do you feel, I feel like when people attack his service and they claim, oh my God, he retired because he didn't want to go to war in Iraq, it's a page from the Donald Trump playbook when Trump said he didn't respect John McCain because he was captured. To me, it's the exact same line of attack. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how far I can go with vulgarity here, but those guys are a bunch of wimps and
I know what you're
bitches,
saying.
Yep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And about it, I was in the same division as Walz and understand how the deployment process works. And Walz was actually in Italy. So he served as part of a command that actually oversaw troops in different places. I think they're really discounting his record and really don't know what they're talking about and doing the McCain thing, like you said. It's just... Yep. It's just, when will people wake up? But the momentum here is just good. There's a new energy. And I just was at the grocery store, and the manager of the store was talking. He said, I was down and with Biden, and it just seemed like everything was dragging. And just with this, in a couple of weeks, everything has flipped.
Ray,
and those guys are scrambling. Those guys are scrambling bad.
I want to say this, Ray. Thank you for your service to this country.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you one more question, sir, before I let you go. When Donald Trump did attack John McCain, and when General Milley, who, by the way, I believe when he says Trump called people like you suckers and losers, I believe Milley when he says that. And you hear the stories of Trump dodging the military. As someone who served this country honorably like yourself, what goes through your mind?
Everything goes through my mind. The guys I served with, how many people do you call this to? I had a mailman who was shot 3 times in Vietnam, delivered mail for 30 years afterwards. Never complained, voted Democratic, came back, he did 2 or 3 tours in a row over there. Marine infantry, he's calling people like that I know that I let it go off. I know what kind of person Donald Trump is. I was a prison counselor, so I know that mindset,
Well, Ray, I'll tell you,
you're right. And,
I'll tell you this, Ray, I'm glad there are heroes out there in this country like yourself. It makes me proud, and people like you allow me to be an idiot on the radio every day.
One more thing. Tim Walz could be any Midwest guy you just pick off the block. He could be my neighbor.
He seems like a good person. You know what I like about this ticket, Ray? And you're right. You know what I like? The thing I like about this ticket the most, and I could say this undoubtedly, these are 2 good people with 2 nice people as their spouses. They're good parents. They're good spouses. They're educated.
The balance of their upbringing, their education. Walz had to work in a factory before he, even thought about becoming a teacher and going to college.
Yeah, exactly.
And was in the military and had to struggle. I had to struggle. I joined the National Guard when I was 17.
Wow.
I worked in factories for summer jobs, went to college, used the GI Bill. He has that story, that Midwest story. He's in the 34th Infantry Division, which is a big, big deal here. Right. Anybody with the Red Bull patch on their shoulder is tough shit.
Well, you know what? He's a hero just like you are, my friend. And Ray, you call back anytime. Thank you for your service to this country. Great phone call, my friend. Let me tell you something. Harris is going to win in November because of people like you. They have had enough. And you are a hero, sir. You are a patriot, not these bastards on January 6th that attacked police officers and were screaming out, hang Mike Pence, defecating on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Donald Trump will call those people patriots. No, sir, you're the patriot. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Janelle. Janelle is next up on PTL. Hey, Janelle, what's going on?
Hey, how are you? I always love listening to your show, and I love calling in.
Thank you.
I got to say, I can see Trump's been having the worst couple of weeks. He's booked himself a therapy session on Fox and Friends. And he's reeling. The guy is reeling. And I tell you, Tim Walz, I can see why she picked him. He came out like a bulldog and dropped bombs.
I like his sense of humor, too. I like the fact that he's willing to, be that nice guy, because I believe he is a nice guy, but he's also willing to get down in the dirt a little bit and make some cheap shot jokes, which, by the way, I think the Democrat Party needs desperately.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, I'm feeling really good about how things are looking right now. Looking at the primaries that happened last night, and I'm an independent. I'm a centrist. I'm totally tired of extremism, and I'm glad that the squad is losing their seats.
I am too, by the way. Cori Bush.
I have to say it.
Yeah, I'll say it like this. AOC, I don't really have too much of a problem with her, but Cori Bush is somebody who is an extremist on the far left. I believe she is an anti-Semite, and she's an embarrassment. I feel the same way about Rashida Tlaib and Omar. I'm not going to put AOC in that category. I don't believe I don't always agree with her, but I think she's an important voice in the party, and I'm totally okay with her because I think her heart is in the right place. I'm not going to say the same thing about Ilhan Omar. I'm not going to say the same thing about Rashida Tlaib, and Cori Bush is a complete embarrassment, and I'm glad she's gone. Janelle, thank you so much for calling in. I'm with you. And those three that I mentioned that I dislike, they're not going to help the Democrat Party. Get rid of them. AOC, I'm okay with. Hey, even Donald Trump was complimenting AOC. Probably for the wrong reasons, probably because of her appearance, I would imagine, going by Donald Trump. But he did call her a spark. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Thanks for the call, Janelle. All right, let's go to Mark. Mark is next up on PTL. Hi, Mark. What's going on?
Hi, this is Carl.
Oh, Carl, go ahead. I'm sorry. We mixed that one up. Go ahead, Carl. Go right ahead.
That's okay. I'll have to change my name on all my checks, but that's okay.
That's all right.
Listen, this is I find very interesting the rally that was just today with
just
the venue that it was held in. Did you see how jammed it was? The top balcony was fully filled up. Everything.
The Trump balcony. I like that.
Trump had a rally at the same venue a few months ago.
Yes,
and there was less than half the people that.
He has been lying about crowd size since his inauguration.
Yeah.
It was even Marjorie Taylor Greene that put out a video that proved that there were a ton of empty seats. The excuses from the far right in regards to this stuff is completely and utterly absurd. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
And if you remember, it was so funny. As I remember, he would point his finger up at the top balcony, which was completely empty, and say, "There are my people." It was. I don't know if you remember that, but the guy is so out of his, he needs so much mental care. It's utterly ridiculous.
It really is ridiculous. It's an embarrassment. But the bottom line.
And what gets me.
But Carl, the bottom line is this: these arenas are full. There is an energy with the left right now and the Democrat Party right now that we have not seen. We didn't see it in 2019 or 2020. We saw it during the Barack Obama years, particularly when he ran first. And even when he ran against Mitt Romney and John McCain. We're seeing that type of feeling now.
But the last point.
Yeah.
Walz was only put in like 24 or 36 hours before.
Correct.
The whole convention there they had, the rally. Yep. Did you see how it's just in a short time that shows how popular he is and it's going to be.
Correct. I think hopefully, Carl, thank you for the call. You're right. Hopefully it continues. Republicans will say, well, they're on their sugar high. Well, how long is the sugar high going to last? It's been several weeks now since Harris was going to be the one to run against Donald Trump. How long does this sugar high last? Well, let's hope it lasts till November. We all know that if Harris wins, Trump will not concede. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you do want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL. What's going on, Paul?
Hey, buddy. Hey, you know one thing? I think everyone's been really good today on the calls. The one thing that I really got excited about is at the rally yesterday, the people in the audience, and you probably caught this too, they were cheering USA, USA. Did you hear that?
I did, and that's not something you hear at these rallies. You do hear it a lot in the Trump rallies, but that was unique. Yeah, that was unique.
I feel like for a period of time, the right of this country has somehow just stolen patriotism and being an American and USA and freedom. And I love the messaging. And I know a lot of people haven't talked about that, but they're talking about freedom now and, you know, patriotism and USA, and how I love America.
Well, Paul.
And I think that's refreshing. And I think we've missed that on the Democratic side for a while.
I agree. They need to continue to do that. Why? The Republicans want to take away a woman's right to choose. The Republicans want to tell your children what books they can or can't read. The Republicans are the ones that want to tell you can't take your kids to drag queen reading. You can't have a teenager or a child or whoever that wants to be transgender. It's bad to be gay. Don't even mention it in schools. Don't say gay bill. Ron DeSantis. They're the ones that want to take your rights away, and they're the ones that want to do it, Paul. They're the ones that want to take your rights away. So I think it's the right messaging, and I like what I'm hearing so far.
I think that, and I know I'm not a political major, I have a feeling that she's going to win by double digits. The people that I'm listening to that were independents, that didn't want to vote, that weren't excited, Tim Walz is just the guy that you want to have dinner with and pull up some cornbread and blackened catfish and fried okra.
Well, I can tell you this.
He's just a good, regular person.
I agree. I can tell you most Americans in this country do not want to have dinner with Fuentes and Kanye West. Those are the types of people that Donald Trump wants to have. Sebastian Gorka and Stephen Miller. I mean, and thank you for the call, Paul. You're absolutely right. I would want to have dinner with a Barack Obama. I would want to have dinner with Walz because they seem like good, normal dudes, good family people, someone that you want to have a beer with. You know, again, Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago decided to have dinner the week that Kanye West lost his you-know-what and was praising Adolf Hitler on the Alex Jones show with Fuentes, and he decided to invite them both to Mar-a-Lago and have dinner with a known white supremacist Nazi in Fuentes. You cannot make this stuff up. How do you vote for a guy like that? Good people on both sides. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Ernest. Thank you for the call, Paul. Ernest is next. What's up, Ernest?
Oh, not much, Brian. Just listening to your show. I'm the first-time caller.
Well, thank you.
I have one request of you, though.
Sure.
I wish you would refrain from calling or even mentioning Sarah Huckabee Sanders' name, because every time you talk about Frau Trump, I want to puke.
Well, I'll try to do that for you, my friend. By the way, where are you calling from? I forgot to ask.
I'm calling from, I hate to admit it, I'm calling from Arkansas.
Oh, no. Okay,
Yeah.
Ernest, can I ask you, how the hell did she get elected? How does that happen?
Well, unfortunately, our state is divided into two sections. There's a big hill called Crowley's Ridge that runs the length of the state. Everything to the east is primarily black. Everything to the west is primarily white, and the rednecks, Walmart rednecks.
Can I ask you this? How the hell does she pass a bill? She thinks it's okay for like a 15 or 14-year-old to work? I mean, she passed that bill, if I have that right. That's insane.
Tell me about it. It is, she has a supermajority of Republicans in the House and the Senate, and so she can do just about anything she wants to.
Oh, my God.
She also passed a bill for school reimbursements, and come to find out 85% of all the money is going to people who already have kids in private schools.
Oh, my God. You know, think about this. They call them rising stars in the Republican Party. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, J.D. Vance, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert. The rising stars in the Democrat Party, people like Josh Shapiro, right? Bashir, you know, these are good people educated people, people of decency. And you look at the people they call rising stars on the right. I mean, it's just despicable. I just think Sarah Sanders and her father are despicable human beings. They're disgusting. And these culture wars that they want to fight with banning books and going after transgenders. And again, they always hide their bigotry with their religion. And Sarah Sanders is another one, right? When she's anti-gay marriage, attacking transgenders, attacking drag queens, calling women murderers who have abortions, she'll hide behind what she would call her faith. And I just think they're the biggest hypocrites in the world, Ernest.
Well, I think they're even bigger than despicable and even bigger than the biggest hypocrites in the world. I mean, how can you say I'm a Christian and follow a man who's a whoremonger, a liar, a fraud, a cheat, a felon, a rapist, and then you call yourself a Christian? But give me a break.
You said it best, Ernest. Great call, my friend, and please call back anytime. I'm sorry that your governor is a complete idiot. It's not your fault, my friend. I know you didn't vote for her. I'm sorry your governor is an idiot. But you sound like an intelligent, educated man, so the Republican Party doesn't want you. That's for sure. Thanks, Ernest, for the phone call. Great call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next up on PTL. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, thank you, Brian, for taking my call.
Sure.
Let me tell you, I was really upset when Shapiro wasn't picked, but I'm kind of liking Walz a lot now.
As am I. I think we're in the same boat there.
I can understand Shapiro staying in PA and rallying basically anytime he wants, all day long, all around PA. But as far as Walz, I think what people really craved was when they said, I'm bringing joy. We're bringing joy to the campaign.
Yeah.
We're bringing happiness to the campaign.
Yep.
And the sense of humor that Walz has, I think, connected with everybody in that arena.
I agree. That's something that I didn't know about him. Yep.
One more thing.
Sure.
I was an E1 when I entered the Army as a combat medic, and I separated as an E5. Okay, now any veteran out there who's going to call in, or any member who's in service right now, can call and state if I'm right or wrong. A second lieutenant, which is the lowest officer in the Army, outranks a master sergeant.
Yeah.
But let me tell you,
Yep.
a master sergeant will have the job of that second lieutenant captain if they're out of line.
Sure.
Because he has a bigger rapport with the commanding general of the unit.
Yes.
And you don't mess with a master sergeant, because they could be as nice as can be. But once you step on their tail, they will shred you.
Oh,
and I'm telling you, Vance is going to be shredded if he brings up anything about the military. And how do you attack a teacher? How do you attack a veteran?
It's crazy.
And a governor that did so much.
It's crazy.
I'd just like to get your opinion on that, Brian.
Yes, and it's a good question, and thank you for the call, Mark. So here's what I'll say to that. Here's what the right are trying to do. They're trying to paint him out to be a socialist, which he is not. They're all they have to go on is they think he's a weirdo because he passed some sort of bill that allowed tampons in boys' restrooms. And by the way, he's talked about that before. First of all, there are girls in school, particularly in high school, that are embarrassed. There are times where a girl will ask a male friend of theirs that they trust, hey, can you get this for me? Because I'm too embarrassed to ask. That is a good thing. There is also the issue of transgenders. And they make this as some sort of big issue that he passed a bill to allow tampons in a school. Meanwhile, somehow that harms children. Meanwhile, Republicans are bragging about their A+ rating from the NRA. It's absurd. The 7th most conservative Democrat in the House, the 6th best state in America for big business, and somehow they want to paint them out to be some sort of socialist, and it makes no sense at all. All right, we'll take one more phone call, then we got to go to break. Let's go to Shay. Shay, what's going on, man?
Hi. I'm 76 and I'm an introvert, so I just stay home and watch the news. And we're in a horrible way. And anybody that blows this off as if it was any old election needs their brain examined and has to recognize that they'll be giving up all kinds of rights they didn't even know they didn't have, like hanging out on the street corner.
Yeah.
Just any little stupid thing.
You're right.
And if they have never seen the inside of a jail or a prison, they will probably get a good dose of it, so they don't do it, or they're stuck.
Well, you're right. I mean, this is
where they can't do it.
You're right. Isn't this supposed to be the party that the Republican Party claims to be not only law and order, but less government involvement? Yet they want the government to tell you what to do with your body. They want to tell you what to do, what to say. They want to tell you.
They want to track your periods. Have you ever heard of such ignorance?
No. And most of the people,
I used to lie.
You're
It was
right.
an esteem thing for me.
You're right. And most of these people are middle-aged white men, crusty conservatives that don't know what it's like to have a period. Or maybe Matt Gaetz does, but don't know what it's like to have a period.
Who did they marry?
Yeah, that's. I mean, look at Eric Trump's. He's not married to her, but these are the people. Kimberly Guilfoyle. I mean, these are the Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, but wait,
I mean,
wait. She was fooling around with Newsom, right?
I do know that, but that's when she was normal, when she didn't look like Mike Lindell. So I mean, that's just that's when she back in the day when she looked like an attractive, nice lady.
Leave him without twisting him.
Yeah, I mean, the Trump family, they just ruin everybody, don't they? Thank you for the call, dear. I really appreciate you calling in, and you call back anytime, okay?
Okay, you
All right.
have a good one.
Good to hear from you. I love it when someone that considers themselves an introvert feels comfortable enough to talk to me on the radio. I really appreciate that because I know that's not an easy thing to do. Thank you so much, my dear. All right, so we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by a man by the name of Dan Clement. Who is Dan Clement? Well, he went to Mankato West High School. That's where Walz taught and coached football. Not only was he a student of Walz's, but he also played football for him, and he says he might have actually saved his life. So we're going to talk to him coming back. Before we take a break, I want to remind you guys that we are independently owned. What does that mean? Well, it costs money to put together a radio show every day. We have a team here. Costs money. So what can you do to get involved? What can you do to help us and keep this show going? We need your support. Check out the website. Why am I doing this with my hand? I say I look like a politician. I don't know. Am I going to do this? I don't know. Sorry about that. Check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live. You go on the website, which we appreciate. Sign up for the free newsletter. But just as important, if not more important, we have merchandise on there. We have some cool stuff you could buy. We got some cool Pushing the Limits mugs. We got some cool water bottles, shirts. We got all sorts of cool stuff up there. And if you don't want to buy merchandise, that's cool. We also have a donate button where you can contribute to the show, and we appreciate anything you can do. $5, $10, $20, whatever you can do, we appreciate it. It helps us keep going here, and we appreciate your support so very, very much. And there's a lot of great people that support this show, like Jackson's Bar and Grill, the official gaming bar of PTL. Great promotion this month where if somebody hits a taxable on a slot machine, if you're playing actively with your card in the machine, you're going to win $20 in free slot play within 24 hours. Please check them out, the official gaming bar of PTL, Jackson's Bar and Grill. Coming up next, he played football for Walz. He was a student of Walz in high school. Dan Clement's going to be joining us next. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Hello, I'm Ron Quince, and I'm running for Congress as a nonpartisan candidate in District 1. I'm dedicated to serving our entire community. In this challenging time, it's more important than ever to have leaders who focus on unity and progress. I believe in putting people over politics and finding practical solutions that benefit us all. Never stop believing in America. no matter our troubles and turmoil. We can and we will do better. We must be brave. Stop voting for those politicians who care about their career and gaining power but don't improve our lives. I believe in America and I believe in you. You need a candidate who believes in policy over party because you deserve better. In Nevada, every voice matters. I humbly ask for your vote this coming election, November 5th. To learn how we can create a better America, please visit quincefornevada.com. Paid for by Ron Quince for Congress.
Tired of the same old date night? Craving a deeper connection with your partner? O-Box is your escape into a world of romance and passion. Each month, discover a box filled with personalized surprises, exciting activities, and a love story written just for the two of you. Ignite desire, share laughter, and make memories that last a lifetime. Your O-Box journey culminates into a beautiful love novel. Ready to write the first thrilling chapter? Let the O-Box adventure begin. Visit our website, obox.com. That's OBOXXX.com and get started.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Workers have been hit hard over the past few years. From the pandemic to inflation, it has often felt like we can't get ahead. Too many of us are struggling to afford rent, food, and other basic necessities. We need leaders who know that our country depends on us, the workers. If we succeed, everyone else succeeds. Our choice is clear this November. We must elect leaders who support our crucial role in this country, and that is not Donald Trump. Paid for by Battleborn Progress.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know a lot about Governor Walz. I knew a little bit about him. He's doing a pretty darn good job as governor, and I see him as a good man. But I've learned a lot more about him over the last 24 hours or so. But I like learning even more. I like digging deeper into things. And the gentleman we have on with us right now, well, he went to school at Mankato West High School. That's where Walz taught, and it's where he was a football coach. And this man actually played football for Mr. Walz and was a student. So I wanted to get his take on that. His name is Dan Clement, and he's nice enough to be joining us on the show right now. Dan, I appreciate you being here, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you taking the time. How you doing?
I hear you loud and clear now, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you. All right, so take me back. I guess we're both a little old, right? Take me back. What year was it when you first met Coach Walz? Was it as a teacher or when he was coaching? What year was this? What was this?
So that would have been 96 when I was a sophomore. I didn't have him as a teacher, but he was a coach. So that's when I was first introduced to him. But he was the varsity coach, and I wasn't quite there yet. But
Gotcha. So I was 16 years old. We were around the same age. So what was like your first impression, right? We always have a first impression of either a coach or a teacher, especially when we were in high school. What was your first impression of this guy when you first met him when you were a teenager?
It was a lot of who is this guy? So I think he was pretty new to the area. I'm not quite sure when exactly he got to Mankato, but being from a southern Minnesota, relatively rural town, it was a rather stoic, kind of reserved, keep to yourself, hardworking, but to have the type of energy that he brought, right? He was very, I don't want to say in your face, but his energy took up some space, right? And so he was very engaging, really interested in individuals, and really kind of pressed a lot of I don't know how I'd say it, I guess, comfort zones, right? So he was a personality that, from my perspective, wasn't typical at all for Mankato, Minnesota.
It's interesting you say that, because I know a lot of college coaches, and they all usually tell me the same thing. You don't want your players to be too comfortable. You want them to be a little bit uncomfortable, not really in a bad way, but you want to get the best performance out of them. So when you say that, is that kind of what you mean by that?
Well, I don't know. I think he was just so egregious. I mean, it was so in such a positive way. He was outgoing, loud, in the right way, loud, and just. So I wouldn't say he was necessarily, keeping us on our toes, but he was just a big personality, and that wasn't typical in my experience around that time.
Gotcha. So Dan, you had spoken in another interview, and we don't have to get too much into detail into this, but when you were younger, you had some substance abuse issues. I don't know if that's fair to say. And you talked a little bit about how he helped you through that. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because I think this is really important. In a way, maybe even could have saved your life. I don't know if that's fair to say or not, but can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, to say he saved my life might be a bit of a stretch, I would say, or it's a big leap. But yeah, I was definitely involved with substances at that time. Now, he didn't directly help me with that. I still struggled with that problem throughout my 20s. Happy to report today, that I've been clean and sober for 14, going on 15 years. So,
congratulations.
It was a struggle I had for some time. Excuse me, I got my little guy coming in here.
Oh, that's okay. No problem.
But what he did do was he knew I needed some extra care and attention, right? And he definitely got me through high school. So I can only imagine what things would have looked like with me not getting through high school. Sorry, pal. And okay. Really the only, thing keeping me in school was football, right?
Right.
And he knew I needed a little extra attention, and he gave it to me, and he pulled me along in that sense. Hey, get here, we need you. Stay
and
here.
What I heard from you is that you didn't have necessarily a father figure in your life. You were raised by your mom. And is it fair to say that maybe Walz, in some aspects, was a father figure to you in some ways in your life at that age?
Yeah, no doubt. I was raised by a very loving, great mother, but it was just her and I. There weren't stepfathers, there weren't boyfriends, there was none of that. So, yeah, I didn't really have a lot of male adult figures, providing guidance or anything like that. So, yeah, when Tim Walz showed an extra attention and care to me, I really took it to heart and really, felt devoted to him and was really responsive to anything he really needed from me.
So here we are now, almost 30 years later, right, Dan? And obviously he's been in public life. He's been obviously a governor. So he's been out there a lot, but now this is another level, right? What was the first thing, Dan, that entered your mind when you heard that Kamala Harris had picked him as her vice presidential running mate? What's the first thing that entered your mind?
Well, the first thing that entered my mind is when I heard that he was going to visit her that weekend. I think it was a Sunday. He was going to meet her face to face. I'm like, well, that's a lock. If she's going to meet him face to face, there's no way that he's going to leave that room without her thinking.
Why did you feel that way, Dan? Tell us.
I think everybody would probably echo that, is that when you meet this guy, you get a very good sense of his genuineness, his integrity, his truth, his honesty, and you're gonna get the truth from Tim Walz, regardless whether you want to hear it or not. You're gonna get it. But what's underneath all of that, the undercurrent there is care and compassion, and so when you couple all that together, high energy, a guy who's very bright. But underneath all that, he just wants to do what's right. And you know that when you're in his presence. I knew it was a slam dunk.
That makes sense. Are you still in contact with him?
Well, I connected with him a couple months ago. Yeah, I visited him in his governor's office. So I had moved out of
Oh, wow.
Minnesota for a number of years, and I just moved back. And so I said, "Gosh, I haven't seen Coach Walz in so long, and I just want to connect with him and remind him what he did for me, right?" And so when I sent that email to his team and they got back to me pretty quickly, I was just tickled that he was willing to meet me. And so it was great. It was good connecting with him. So this has been a bit of a whirlwind. I saw him, a month or two ago for the first time in years, and now can't seem to stop talking about him.
What do you think this will be like? And are you kind of thinking about this in your head that if Harris does win and he is the vice president, that you might be going to the White House at some point to say now, not only hello to your former high school football coach and teacher, but the vice president? I mean, that's pretty cool.
I mean, that sounds exciting, but I would have no expectations of that. He's going to be one busy man, and I'm just here to help in any tiny, small way I could, because as I said, I'm devoted to him. So if you need me to help in any way, I'm willing to do it. Want me to mow your lawn? Great. If you want me to go away and shut up and get off these radio shows, I'll do that too, and I'll happily.
I don't think he's going to want that. I think your voice, actually, Dan, is extremely important, and I'm glad you're doing these interviews. If you don't mind me asking you, I don't know a lot about your background politically, and I really didn't have you come on the show to talk politics necessarily, but if you don't mind me asking you, do you come from a Republican family or a Democrat family? How would you characterize your positions in your family, if you don't mind me asking that?
Well, generally speaking, I think it leaned more conservative.
Gotcha.
But I think I've always kind of been down the middle, man. I've always kind of been, I was a Ralph Nader guy in the early 2000s. I was just like, whoever's on the fringe, that's my guy.
Right.
And so that's just kind of how I've always rolled. But when it comes,
Did we lose him? I think his son might have hit a button there. We were just getting. Did we get you back there? We just got you back there. We lost you for about 10 seconds. Go ahead, Dan.
Shoot, I think I lost you. Sorry.
No, we hear you loud and clear now. Can you hear us? I think we might have lost Dan there for a moment. Dan, if you can hear us, let me know. All right, we'll wait on the line here and see if we can get Dan back on with us, because we can hear Dan loud and clear, but we lost him there for a moment. It was just getting good because I was just trying to ask him who he's going to be voting for. By the way, I don't think that's much of a decision for him. Should we see if we got us? I don't know. Dan, can you hear me okay, my friend? Dan, are you there? Oh, gosh darn it. I think we lost Dan. I think we lost him. That's okay. I think the answer that I was about to get was that there's no question, even though he's down the middle and he has a background of being a conservative, that he will be voting for Harris and Walz. Well, isn't that a cool story? That, he actually emailed Governor Walz a few months ago, and that Walz's team immediately got back to him and he visited him as governor. I just think that is such a cool story, and that's so cool. And boy, I'd love to have a personal relationship with the vice president. I think we have Dan back on. Dan, can you hear me okay?
I can. Sorry about that.
Wait, did your son hit a button or something?
No, I'm on my phone here. Someone tried.
Gotcha. Well, I'll let you go here in a couple minutes. I just I wanted to give you an opportunity to finish your answer where you had mentioned you would come from maybe a conservative family, but more down the middle. I would imagine it's not going to be much of a decision for you. I think I know who you're going to be voting for. Is that fair to assume that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have no problem saying that loud and proud.
I think that is awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool. What would be your message out there to people that don't really know Walz very well? I mean, you alluded to this obviously earlier with some of your stories, but for people that don't really know the man, right? They know him as the politician, even though I don't know him personally, he seems like a pretty everyday great dude to me. For people that don't know him like you do from when you were a teenager, what would you tell those people, Dan?
Well, I guess I would say with Tim Walz, everybody has a seat at the table, right? So I was definitely, I was the type of kid that would be easy to give up on, just shoo away. You're too much work. don't need you around here. But he didn't. He took the time, he took the attention, and he he listens. He wants to know what's going on. He wants to make the right decision, right? And
Yep.
so in order to make the right decision, it takes all views, all perspectives. And he affords everybody that. And he's just a great guy, and I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Minnesota, one of the greatest places to raise a family. This is why I moved back. I got a young family now. Education system's, amazing. I grew up in it, so I'm a little biased, I guess. But, we came back here. I'm a small business owner as well, and so the policies here they're just great, right? Top 5 in business. Top 3 in, I don't know. I forget what he quoted, but top 3 in happiness, whatever,
Sure.
And
Last question, and I'm on board with you. You know who I'm voting for. Obviously, it's going to be Harris Walz, no question. The attacks on the far right, they call him a socialist. They want to attack him for, he allowed tampons in boys' bathrooms. He dodged going to war in Iraq, even though he served for 24 years. Now, obviously, people like you and me, we find those attacks ridiculous, but I want to get your thoughts on that. The attacks from the far right, what goes through your mind when you hear some of those things?
Well, I got to quote the man himself, and I just saw this the other day. It's like, he free food for children so that they're not hungry and they can go to school. Ooh, scary, right? Reproductive rights for women. Ooh, scary. It's just like, what else is it? Top 5 in business. I mean, come on, far right. I thought we were all about business.
Right. You're
Look no further than Minnesota. Look no further than Minnesota. Hey, a lot of great things going on here. So
no question.
And that's what's great about Walz is, I think a lot of those barbs, they just can't find anywhere to land with him.
Well, Dan, I think what you're doing is really important. And I'm glad that you're doing these interviews because people need to get to know the man, Mr. Walz, not just the politician. And I think when people hear your story and you talk about him and maybe other students, it gives people a great sense of who he is. And boy, he sounds like a great dude, a war hero. Listen, he served this country honorably for 24 years, a teacher, a football coach, a great governor, and hopefully he'll be an opportunity to be a great vice president. Dan, I do appreciate your time, my friend. I'll let you get back to your son. And thank you so much for doing this interview. And hopefully, if they win, I would love to have you back on and get your reaction to that, Dan, if that's okay. And I really do appreciate your time.
Yeah,
thanks, Dan, for your time, my friend.
And thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, Dan. Thank you so much. That's Dan Clement. Went to Mankato West High School. Played high school football for Mr. Walz, Coach Walz, was his teacher in high school as well. Sounds like a great guy, by the way. Not just Walz, but Dan sounds like a wonderful dude. And I'm really glad he took the time to come on with us. Sounds like a great family man himself. And I thought what was really cool about that story, there's a lot of cool things to kind of dissect, and we'll take some phone calls on that after I take a break here in a few moments at 702-221-7283. But there's a couple things about that interview that stand out to me just now, and as I'm kind of processing it. Dan had some substance abuse issues. Coach Walz helped him through that, helped guide him. Yeah, he was a tough-nosed football coach, but he had individual relationships with every player and student. And how cool is that Walz he coached probably, I would imagine, thousands of high school students, taught thousands of students in his 20-year teaching career and coaching career. But this man, Dan Clement, sends an email to his team. They immediately get back to him. And the governor sees Dan privately, and they have a nice conversation. I think that is so cool. And it's so nice to hear these stories about this guy. And the more I hear about him, the more I like him. I'll be honest with you. So we appreciate Dan being a part of the show. And listen, I hear more people coming forward and talking about Walz, the human being. We'll have them on as well. No question about that. Hey, if people want to, tell me stories about what a wonderful person Donald Trump is, even though I won't believe it, I'll still have you on and I'll hear you out. But I don't think there's much of a comparison from a moral compass. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. Stephen Miller showing his racism and Islamophobia on Fox News. We're going to play that clip for you. And then the lies and the attacks on Walz, because he says he doesn't want weapons of war and the type of weapons that he used to be sold to the public. And the right is attacking him for that as well. We'll play those clips for you coming up. We'll also take some more of your phone calls. That number to call if you want to be a part of the program is 702-221-7283. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the show, 702-221-7283. This portion of the program is brought to you by Battleborn Progress. Education is a fundamental right in the country. Donald Trump endorses school choice and other voucher scheme. We need leaders who understand public money needs to stay in our public schools. Kind of like Mr. Walz, by the way. We need leaders to know that this country depends on us, the workers. For more information, check out this wonderful organization at battlebornprogress.org. Again, that website, battlebornprogress.org. Taking your phone calls on the other side, 702-221-7283. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part, every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
Tired of the same old date night? Craving a deeper connection with your partner? O-Box is your escape into a world of romance and passion. Each month, discover a box filled with personalized surprises, exciting activities, and a love story written just for the two of you. Ignite desire, share laughter, and make memories that last a lifetime. Your O-Box journey culminates into a beautiful love novel. Ready to write the first thrilling chapter? Let the O-Box adventure begin. Visit our website, obox.com. That's OBOXXX.com. And get started.
Hello, I'm Ron Quince, and I'm running for Congress as a nonpartisan candidate in District 1. I'm dedicated to serving our entire community. In this challenging time, it's more important than ever to have leaders who focus on unity and progress. I believe in putting people over politics and finding practical solutions that benefit us all. Never stop believing in America, no matter our troubles and turmoil. We can and we will do better. We must be brave. Stop voting for those politicians who care about their career and gaining power but don't improve our lives. I believe in America and I believe in you. You need a candidate who believes in policy over party because you deserve better. In Nevada, every voice matters. I humbly ask for your vote this coming election, November 5th. To learn how we can create a better America, please visit quincefornevada.com. Paid for by Ron Quince for Congress.
Few years. From the pandemic to inflation, it has often felt like we can't get ahead. Too many of us are struggling to afford rent, food, and other basic necessities. We need leaders who know that our country depends on us, the workers. If we succeed, everyone else succeeds. Our choice is clear this November. We must elect leaders who support our crucial role in this country, and that is not Donald Trump. Paid for by Battleborn Progress.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limit on a Wednesday. So former presidential candidate and former congressman out of Chicago, Joe Walsh, is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow and in the first segment. And no better time now because I know Walsh was in Philadelphia. He was at that rally in Philadelphia, part of the organization Republicans for Harris. So I know he had a little bit of private time with Harris and Walz. So I'm going to talk to Walsh about that tomorrow. So that's going to be a lot of fun. If you're just joining us, you missed a lot. We had Ron Filipkowski from Midas Touch joining us in the first segment. Love Ron. He's one of my favorite guests. It's the reason why he's got like a gazillion followers on social media. The guy's brilliant. And we just had a guy by the name of Dan Clement joining us on the show. Who's Dan Clement? Well, he played high school football for Walz, Coach Walz. And he was a student. And he told us a really cool story that I don't think he's told any other organization in the last couple of days, in that he reached out to the governor, now vice presidential nominee, a few months ago, and he went to visit him as governor, and they had some private time together. I just think that is so cool. You know, you really can learn a lot about somebody, and I've talked about this before, when you go to their past and people remain in contact with one another. And I've talked about this with Kamala Harris, and this has nothing to do with policy. Close your eyes for a moment. Forget that you're a Republican or a MAGA supporter, whoever you are, I don't care. We know that in a lot of families, especially when there's divorces and kids from another marriage, the original spouse, the original mother or father, sometimes there's tension with the stepmom or stepdad. And I think that's probably a natural thing in a lot of situations. Not the case with Kamala Harris. And I think it speaks volumes as who she is as a human being, as a stepmom, because the actual biological mother here in this family has had nothing but nice things to say about Harris. And the kids have had nothing but nice things to say. It just seems like a very close-knit family. And I think you learn a lot about her, the human being. These are stories that I didn't know about Harris until now. And we're learning about similar family stories and about Walz. And I just think these great stories are going to continue up till the election. And I think that's really great. Are we going to learn any wonderful things about Donald Trump in the next 3 months? Or J.D. Vance, other than his wife playing the defense on Fox News, doing these pathetic interviews, trying to defend the idiotic statements that J.D. Vance has made, the cat lady comment, oh, he was just joking. He would never say anything to hurt anybody. Or trying to say that people that don't have kids shouldn't have as strong a voice as people that do. Maybe we should tax more people that don't have kids. Indefensible comments. Or Donald Trump going after Harris's lack of blackness or the fact that she might have turned black. No, these are indefensible comments. But God forbid if Walz makes a joke about J.D. Vance in a couch for 5 seconds, the right is up in arms. Speaking of up in arms, speaking of an absolutely despicable and disgusting human being, his name is Stephen Miller. And make no mistake about it, we hope it doesn't happen, at least I don't. But if Donald Trump gets back into the White House in November, which I don't think he will and I hope he doesn't, one of the guys that will be back in his administration is the weirdo himself, Stephen Miller, who did an interview on Fox News yesterday and showed once again his unadulterated racism and Islamophobia. Have a listen to this.
He is the biggest booster in the whole country for unlimited refugee resettlement. That means under the Harris-Walz plan, they're going to turn the entire Midwest into Mogadishu. That's their plan. That's their policy. I don't think there's a market for that in the United States of America.
Just absolute racism and Islamophobia. That is exactly what those on the far right, that is their platform. Make no mistake about it. They want to deport every single person in this country that is undocumented, including children. Doesn't matter what their situation is. They have no problem in separating families. They have no answers to the gun violence. We'll get to that in a moment. They believe that drag queen reading is more of a threat to our kids than all the gun violence in this country. They want to tell women what to do with their body. If they have it their way, Project 2025, abortion will be illegal from state to state across the country because these people are nuts. They're against gay marriage. God forbid if somebody doesn't look like you or talk like you, doesn't have your religion, doesn't have your sexual preference, doesn't have your skin color, then you're a sinner. Make America great again. Let me tell you something. It's very clear to me what Make America Great Again really stands for. It's Make America White Again. We want America to look like what we look like. White. When was America great? Now, I think the United States of America is the best country in the world. I love this country, and I'm glad I live here. It doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of problems that need to be fixed. But when was America great? When people were allowed to own other human beings during slavery? Was America great when women weren't allowed to vote? When exactly was America great? When black people had to drink from different drinking fountains and had to sit in the back of the bus? When people say make America great again, look at them and ask them, when was America great? Was America great when we were losing 5,000 people a day to COVID? Was America great when a bunch of insurrectionists stormed the Capitol, chanting "Hang Mike Pence," attacking police officers, peppering them with bear spray, beating them with their own batons, trying to overturn the outcome of a free and fair election? Was that when America was great? As I say before and I say again, I love this country. But make America great again means make Donald Trump great again, because everything that Donald Trump does is calculated and it's about him and nobody else. He is the most insecure, disloyal human being you can find in this country, and that's saying something. There's quite a few of those people out there. And the attacks on Tim Walz get worse and worse. You have a bunch of right-wing buffoons like Paul Sapula, who sadly has a large platform on social media, and he's gone after me before, but I take it and I go right back at him. So this is a video from years back where Walz doesn't say he wants to ban guns, but he wants to ban weapons of war. Have a listen to this audio, and then we will discuss.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and Dad said, "Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this." I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Agree. Agree 150%. So what does a right-wing pundit fool like Paul Sapula say on social media after hearing that clip? Here's what he says. He says, quote, "Tim Walz says he wants to ban guns he carried in war. He was in the National Guard, but quit when he found out he was going to be shipped to Iraq. Walz never served in war. Stolen valor." What a despicable thing to say. Again, this is a page from the Donald Trump playbook. This is somebody who served this country honorably for over 2 decades. This is similar to Donald Trump saying, "I don't respect John McCain because he was captured." It is disgusting. If you want to have a conversation about policy, let's do it. But notice, Paul Sapula refuses to do that. He makes a statement about guns. Well, yeah, a lot of the guns that are used in war are used for one reason and one reason only: to kill as many people as possible, the enemy, in the shortest period of time. Those should not be sold to the general public. But if you ask a lot of Republicans, they have no answers, or I should say solutions, to the gun violence in this country. Their only thing is, let's arm our kindergarten teachers and more guns make us safer, which, by the way, is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And as Jon Stewart said it best, when are we going to see that curve go down then? We are number 2, last I checked, number 2 country in the world for most guns. We have 140 guns per capita per 100 people. So wouldn't that mean we should be one of the safest countries in the world when it comes to gun violence? But we're not. We have some of the most gun violence in the world in this country. More guns do not make us safer. Arming our kindergarten teachers will not make us safer. It won't make our kids safer. Get these weapons of war off the streets. Democrats have been trying to do that for decades. They had an assault weapons ban in the early 90s. Guess what happened? Gun violence went down. You can look it up if you don't believe me, but then the Republicans allowed it to fizzle out. Have you ever heard a Democrat ever in a campaign ad running for office that bragged about their NRA rating? No, of course not. Because these right-wing bastards, that's what they are. You know why they're bastards? I'll tell you why. Because they put their A+ rating for their NRA as a priority higher than public safety. That's why. They're despicable. I'll give you a perfect example of what I am talking about. Perfect example. Donald Trump gets his ear pierced. That's what it was, ladies and gentlemen. His ear just didn't grow back the next day. Okay? Terrible situation. Glad he wasn't assassinated, okay? Terrible situation. An innocent man died. A couple other people were shot. Terrible situation. I'm glad the person who tried to execute Trump was taken out. Terrible. So with that being said, Donald Trump had a bloody ear. Looked like a runny nose. And what did they do at the RNC when Donald Trump was pierced, allegedly shot in the ear? What did they do at the RNC? Because they're all Klan cultists, most of them decided to wear these weird ear envelope bandages as solidarity. So when the former president of the United States gets his ear pierced and gets a boo-boo, they all wear bandages in solidarity. When our children, our innocent children, are gunned down and killed and massacred in our schools, what do some of these House Republicans do? They show up and they wear their AR-15 pins on their vest. What would Republicans have said the day after the attempted assassination attempt on Donald Trump if Democrats wore AR-15 pins on their vest the day after that took place? I think Republicans probably would have had a problem with that. It's the fundamental difference here between Republicans and Democrats. You see, you can have the frontrunner of the Republican Party attack your family, attack the looks of your wife in the case of Ted Cruz and his wife. You could have the leader of the Republican Party claim that members of your family assassinated John F. Kennedy, or go after the heritage of your wife in the case of Mitch McConnell. You could have the leader of your party even going after Governor Kemp, which I think most Republicans are not happy with, and Kemp will still vote for him. Trump went after Nikki Haley's husband while he was serving overseas just a few months ago. Nikki Haley said that he was unfit for office recently. But Nikki Haley gets on the RNC stage and still supports Donald Trump for president. You can disagree with every policy put forth by the Biden administration. You can disagree with every policy. That's not an excuse, in my opinion, to vote for Donald Trump. Because the attacks from the far right don't stick. They claim that Harris allegedly had an affair decades ago. You support the man who's cheated on every woman he's ever gone out with and married. 5 kids with 3 wives. Go after Kamala Harris. Some people say she got to where she is because of lying on her back. There's a local despicable radio host that has made that statement time and time again. I don't know how he's allowed to continue to be on the air. When Donald Trump has unprotected sex with a porn star 2 weeks after Barron was born. You have no credibility. Sit this one out. You're going to go after Walz for his service? 24 years serving this country honorably because people claim with no evidence to back up that he retired because he didn't want to go to war in Iraq? Yet the man who you support dodged the military multiple times? You cannot make this stuff up. Calling our brave men and women suckers and losers? Attacking John McCain, I don't respect him. I tend to respect people who were not captured. Attacking minorities in this country, people who come from Mexico, these people, they're rapists, they're bad people, and I suppose some of them are good people. These are unprecedented times we're living in. Good people on both sides. stand back and stand by. The list goes on and on and on. 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Your thoughts. Let's go to Joseph. Joseph next up on PTL. Hey, Joseph, what's going on, man?
Yeah, hey, Brian. All right. After hearing that speech from Kamala Harris's new VP, I say he's got a chance to go up against J.D. Vance. And like I say about Kamala Harris, by the time we get to the debate, I do hope she'll bring up everything about Trump, including how the way he was talking about his nephew's son. I find that very disgusting, disturbing, and pathetic. And even more so, I said the same thing about Mark Robinson when he was talking about Simone Biles, but at least Simone Biles has something that Trump and Big Mouth Mark Robinson will never have, which is athleticism and spirit.
How, and I agree with you, and how great, what was it, by the way, when Biles said, I love my black job? I thought that was hilarious. Kind of a cheap shot at Donald Trump. And I will say this, should we be surprised on who Donald Trump goes after and the things that Donald Trump says? I mean, he basically said that he wanted to have sex with his own daughter, right? If she wasn't my daughter, I would date her. What normal human being would make a statement like that about their daughter? And they want to call Joe Biden the pedophile. We've heard this for years. If Joe Biden said, boy, if she wasn't my daughter, I would date her. What do you think Republicans would say about that, Joseph?
Oh, they're going to think they'll say that's a good. They're going to say they're going to say those MAGA Republicans will say it's a good thing to them. But me personally, I find it disgusting. That's more like an incest to me. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, I agree.
And more importantly, and also, I think the reason why Trump is punishing women is because I always think of him as an orange-colored incel. But because that's what incels do. They're taking their extreme towards women, and he wants to bring that to the extreme as well with the abortion bans and let the abusive husbands and abusive parents become executioners.
Amen, brother. Well said, Joseph. And I appreciate the call. I appreciate the core. I appreciate the call. I will say this. I'm going to question. I think Donald Trump has turned orangutan in the last 5 or 6 years. He wasn't this orange before. I think he's turned orangutan. I think we should develop some shirts that say Donald Trump has turned orangutan. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Again, that number 702-221-7283. I believe that's 702-221-SAVE. I can't save some of you MAGAs out there, though. Let's go to Nelson. Nelson is next up on PTL. What's going on, Nelson?
Going on? I apologize for the noise in the background. I'm on the bus right now.
No problem.
So I figured I'd let you know what's going on. You know, Brian, I'm scratching my head. I have been scratching my head lately. Fox News, they love to talk about the other networks.
Mm-hmm.
But here's why they don't deserve to host a presidential debate, to have that privilege.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Sure.
Didn't they get in trouble not too long ago for spreading lies to their audience?
Intentionally, by the way,
Nelson.
Nelson.
And had to pay over $750 million.
Intentionally. Here's the best part about this, Nelson, or lack thereof. They not only agreed to the settlement, but they admitted that they intentionally misled their viewers and intentionally lied, knowing that Dominion voting machines did not have any play in overturning an election or any type of fraud like that. And it goes to show you how stupid some of their viewers are, because they listen to Dinesh D'Souza and the 2,000 Mules farce and that drug-addicted fool, Mike Lindell, whose brain is fried. You remember those commercials in the 80s? This is your brain on drugs. They were talking about Mike Lindell's brain. Okay, that guy is nuts. But these are the people that the far right listen to for their information, and Fox News that intentionally lie, and Nelson, you're absolutely right. They want to hold a presidential debate. Are you effing kidding me? They have no credibility. Zero.
Zero credibility. CNN's not paying anything. MSNBC's not paying anything. And yet they're the ones who was paying a high price for lying. And look, they don't learn from their past mistakes. And from that rally we all witnessed just yesterday, I've seen Americans very joyful, happy, So MAGA meets MAJA, M-A-J-A. Make America joyful again.
Yeah. By the way, where's been Donald Trump been all week? He did that white supremacist podcast on Monday with those morons. He does a little podcast on Monday, a puffer of a podcast, and then he's not doing anything Tuesday. He's not doing anything today. No campaign events today. No campaign events tomorrow. And he's supposedly holding a Klan rally Friday night. Where is he?
Yeah.
They are melting at the seams, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, before I let you go, is just recently he did an appearance on a podcast with somebody
on Monday.
And fairly recent. And the host was criticizing Kamala Harris's husband, called him quote unquote a crappy Jew, a horrible Jew.
That you're talking about Sid Rosenberg, who is a deplorable, Sid Rosenberg, who at WABC Radio, they're a disgrace.
Disgusting.
Yes.
Disgusting.
Let me tell you who you're right. Let me tell you who Sid Rosenberg is. I've met that buffoon before. He used to be the co-host with Don Imus, who openly called black people the N-word, by the way. I would say, God rest his soul. I hope Don Imus is burning in hell. Horrific human being.
Yeah. And
okay?
also, Brian, one more thing.
Yep.
Some news came out. I read an article about that missing link between the Trump organization and the Egypt and that $10 million mysterious campaign donation. Well, it appears that bank in Egypt said that they couldn't cooperate with that subpoena back in 2016 because they mentioned China and that how their laws make it difficult for lawyers to get information.
Right.
So my thing is that why are they mentioning China? And if they are, I guess the hidden juicy details is over there in China. Once again, everything leads to China.
Yeah.
And if I'm the Harris campaign, you should really look into that.
Yeah. Are you on a bus? You're on a bus right now?
Yeah, I'm on a bus on the way back home from work.
Is there any chance you could stand up and say vote Harris right now? Or would that embarrass you? I don't want to put you in a bad spot.
Yeah. I couldn't do that.
Okay. I don't want to put you in a bad spot.
There's some MAGA.
All right. Well, I don't want to.
I'm not trying to have a single be a Royal Rumble on the bus.
Yeah. So if you're telling me if you stood up on the bus right now and you said Trump is a rapist, that probably it put you in a bad position. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. It would really look. They're so unhinged. And I just don't care how they feel. At the end of the day, if Republicans decide to vote for the Harris ticket, it's like this, Brian.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing it for the country, for democracy. But most importantly, if they do that, they're still Americans at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Who care for their country? They don't want to see it go down.
You're right.
Flames.
You know how they like to profile people and judge people based on what they look like. Let's play a little game here. Let's turn it around on them. Is there anybody in the bus right now that you could profile that you would say you're looking at right now and that you would make an assumption that they're probably a Donald Trump supporter? What do they look like? What are they wearing? Where are they sitting? Can you without them hearing, because I don't want to put you in a bad spot here.
They're wearing the shirts. I mean, it's like I'm in ground zero on this bus. They're wearing the shirts. They're saying, Trump Vance and all that.
You're in a bus right now with people wearing Trump Vance shirts?
Yeah, just a few.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And here's the thing too. People beside that don't like talking about politics, so you really don't want to put people on the spot. I'm just saying, Brian, what I'm seeing is a total disgrace with national abortion ban, everything going on.
Yeah.
Like they say, remember in November?
I hear you.
Remember, because November is going to be a Rovember, because this is going to be crazy. Women, they're going to have the final say with all these issues, especially with the reproductive freedoms.
You're right, Nelson. And I'll say this, and by the way, thank you for the call. Be safe out there on that bus and look out for those MAGA supporters. Be careful, my friend. I appreciate the call, Nelson. God, I would have loved to have just stood up and listened to the reaction. They would have thought he was a lunatic, of course. But, I don't want to put him in that spot. Just to stand. I love Harris. Walz. I just would have loved for him to get into some argument with some MAGA supporter live on the radio. That would have been great radio. I tried, but I also don't want to put him in a very peculiar situation. So I certainly didn't want that to happen. Thank you, Nelson, for the phone call. Should we start something like that? Like a live conversation like with a MAGA supporter, and call into the radio show right before you start the conversation, or right when you start the conversation, call into the show and put us on speakerphone or something so we can hear the whole thing live. Boy, that would be fun to do. I don't know. I just think that'd be fun live radio. I don't know if we'll be able to do that, but that would be a lot of fun, because boy, God knows all the conversations I have with some MAGA supporters outside of this radio show, some of them are more entertaining than some of the calls I even get here, if you can imagine that. It really is something else. It really is. All right, support my friends over at Jackson's Bar and Grill. They're the official gaming bar of Pushing Limits, the radio show. They have a really cool promotion. They're at Flamingo and Jones in Vegas if you're in Vegas, or if you're coming to town, check them out. This promotion is really cool. You ever sit next to somebody, or you're in a bar and somebody hits a big jackpot on a slot machine? Sure, you're happy for them, but a part of you is a little jealous also. Well, now you get a piece of the pie, because if anybody hits a taxable jackpot there this month, as long as you're actively playing in a machine with your card in, you get $20 in free slot play within 24 hours. How cool is that promotion? Check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. So as I've told people in hour number one, I just remind everybody, we are an independently owned radio show. What exactly does that mean? Well, we're kind of like public radio in that aspect, where we rely on donations and we rely on good people like you listening in and watching to support the show. So how can you get involved? How can you help what we do? I'm so glad you asked. First, check out my website, which is fairly new. It's only been around for a couple months. It's already got like 500,000 people that have visited the site in just a couple weeks. Pushingthelimits.live. Again, that new website is pushingthelimits.live. What can you do to help us? Well, besides signing up for the newsletter, we sell merchandise on there, and I've showed some of the merchandise. Cool coffee mugs. We got cool water bottles, a lot of cool stuff up there on the website, which you can purchase at very affordable prices. If you don't want to buy the merchandise, that's totally fine. We also have a donate button, whatever you can afford. Right on the homepage there's a donate button. It's so easy. $5, $10. You know, I get these contributions from people all over the country and all over the world. I got a contribution from Australia the other day. And I'm so appreciative of that. Whatever you can do to afford, if you appreciate what we do, we appreciate anything you can do to help us out. Whatever you can afford, we appreciate it very much. Doesn't matter what the number is. So thank you so much. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live, pushingthelimits.live. I'm going to repost some of the interviews I've done just over the last couple days, which are newsworthy. Dan Clement, who went to Mankato West High School, where the vice presidential nominee Walz coached him on the football team, the varsity football team. Dan shared some great stories. We really appreciate him taking the time to join us. We had Ron Filipkowski joining us, who's got like 1 million followers on X from Midas Touch. He gave us his thoughts and his opinions on everything happening. And tomorrow, the first segment of the show, I'm excited to talk to Joe Walsh, because he was actually at, the former presidential candidate, was actually at the Harris-Walz rally in Philadelphia, that first rally that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was yesterday. And he is now a new member of Republicans for Harris, an organization that keeps growing by the day. So Joe's going to talk to us about that, any private time he had with the Madam Vice President and Mr. Walz, Governor Walz. So he's going to be joining us tomorrow. Joe Walsh will be joining us tomorrow to talk a little bit more about that, and really looking forward to talking with him. And again, another rally today. We will certainly cover the audio of that. And Harris is coming to Las Vegas with Walz on Saturday. I will be covering that as a member of the media, and I will bring you all of that information and what I got from there on Monday. We'll see if we can get a few minutes with the Madam Vice President. We'll certainly try. And I appreciate all of you being a part of Pushing the Limits. Pushingthelimits.live. Thanks to Justin. Thanks to everyone for listening in. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino.